Now, the number of cases of coronavirus is rising in London, but the capital has by far the lowest vaccination rate in the whole of the UK. The Labour Mayor, Sadiq Khan, is with me now. Welcome, Mr. Khan. First of all, the blindingly obvious question, if you don't mind, did Matt Hancock do the right thing?
He did, but what's surprising is on Friday, the Prime Minister thought this matter was closed because Matt Hancock gave an apology. And even yesterday, it wasn't the Prime Minister sacking Matt Hancock, it was a resignation from Matt Hancock because of the media coverage. I think what's important now is for there to be proper investigations into which rules were broken in relation to use of private email, in relation to the appointment of senior staff, and also in relation to the social distancing rules. I'm keen, though, to work closely with the new Health Secretary to make sure as many Londoners as possible are fully jabbed up so we can properly reopen on July the 19th.
And another bus driver's son.
It's always good to see this small club of children of bus drivers doing really well, and I wish him all the best.
OK, let's talk about COVID in London. It's spreading quite fast. I've been a victim, though. I think I got mine at the G7 in Cornwall, but nonetheless, it is everywhere around London, and yet around 40% of Londoners are not vaccinated. Do you take responsibility for that?
I do, but let's start with the good news, which is as a global city, we're doing far better than other global cities. The first jab was only administered 200 days ago, and we now have more than 8.5 million Londoners having had at least one dose and 3.5 million having both doses. And the reason why it's important, Andrew, is although the case numbers are going up, those in hospital have now stabilised and in fact are far lower than either wave 1 or wave 2. And if you receive both jabs, you're more than 90% less likely to have to go in hospital, which wasn't the case in the first wave or second wave.
And yet, if you look at London inside the UK, London is between 14 and 17% worse than the next worst region. In other words, London is holding the whole country back at the moment. Why is London such a problem in terms of vaccination?
Well, actually, we're not that far behind. We're about 8% behind. But the reason why we've got challenges in London as a global city is our population is younger. It's more mobile, it's more diverse. We're less likely to be registered with a GP, which means the normal official channels of communication, the texting to your patient, the ringing up your patient aren't there. But also we have a large migrant population as well, less likely to be registered with a GP, but also less likely to share their data to receive a jab. The good news, though, is last weekend, we had more than 135,000 Londoners receiving the jab with our mass vaccination centres, Chelsea, Spurs, West Ham, Charlton. This weekend, Arsenal, Crystal Palace and Charlton doing really good work.
Fronted by Jeremy Corbyn, I noticed.
Well, the key thing is to make sure all of us do whatever we can to encourage Londoners to be fully protected, to have one, if not both jabs before July the 19th.
Despite this relative lack of protection among Londoners, you thought it would be safe to reopen on June the 21st. Do you think, therefore, that we should end all restrictions, the government should end all restrictions in London for July the 5th?
I think the reality is we're not going to be able to fully reopen on July the 5th. I think we should, hopefully, fingers crossed, be able to fully reopen on July the 19th. The key thing, though, is for as many of us as possible to receive the jab. Why? Because it protects you against the worst consequences of the virus, but also you're less likely to be in hospital, and we're more likely to fully reopen on July the 19th. It's crucial.
There are some really hard decisions for London to take. Wembley is due to open fully, that is with 90,000 people inside it in a relatively short time for the finals of the Euros. Given where we are, given how fast the Delta variant is spreading, is that really wise?
I think the current agreement is for Wembley to open at two-thirds capacity, around 67,000. And what the government, working closely with UEFA, the FA, Brent Council, Public Health England, the NHS is doing is making sure the environment is safe with lateral flow tests. You've got to have two jabs.
As Mayor of London, do you think it is wise for Wembley to host the UEFA finals?
Yeah, I'm reassured. I think it's going to be great for our city. The entire world's going to be watching London for the finals and the semi-finals. We've worked incredibly hard to make the game safe, and I think we should be proud of that.
What about theatres? There's been a great controversy over opening theatres. Do you think they should open now?
Listen, theatres work so hard to make themselves COVID secure. I was at a theatre 2 Sundays ago. I think they should fully reopen on July the 19th, as well as live music venues, as well as pubs, as well as bars. I think the two things that are crucial over the next period is, one, to make sure everyone gets the vaccine, but also, secondly, that we make sure we have a rapid recovery.
But we know that means there will be a huge increase in infections across London at that period.
Well, no,
and you think because of the vaccine it's still okay?
Well, one of the reasons why the Prime Minister took the advice from his experts to delay by 4 weeks us fully reopening on June the 21st was to allow more of us to receive one, if not two, doses of the vaccine. This gives us time to make sure as many of us as possible are fully protected. That's why it's so important, whether you live in London or elsewhere in the country, please make sure you get one jab and hopefully both jabs before July the 19th.
Let's turn to the really big issue for most Londoners at the moment, which is violent crime. And I'm going to hover over these numbers because they are pretty awful, really. Since 2015, murders are up 17%. Crimes involving a blade are up 10%. Robberies are up 5%. And offences of rape are up 13%. Straightforward question. Why is London becoming more dangerous under Sadiq Khan?
Well, serious youth violence in our city started going up in 2013 with youth violence in 2014. But these are people we're talking about, and these are victims, and I meet regularly the bereaved families. So we're working incredibly hard to both invest in the police, being tough on crime, but also, as importantly, invest in giving young people constructive things to do. And here's the good news.
But something is going wrong here, isn't it?
Well, here's the good news. Before the pandemic even begun, we saw youth violence going down, homicides going down, knife crime injuries below the age of 25 going down, burglaries going down, but I'm not complacent. And that's why it's so important to continue investing in both the police, but also young people as well.
I'm still not understanding why things have gone wrong, because I read you those numbers and they're pretty horrific.
Well, let me explain.
So why are they going wrong?
All right, well, let me explain. The reason why serious youth violence began again in 2013, 3 years before I became mayor of the city, was because cuts have consequences. You can't, reduce police officer numbers by 21,000, close down youth clubs, reduce public services, reduce the numbers of after-school clubs, have very few things for young people to do, and then be surprised when crime starts going up. But here's the good news.
Well, you've got 800 new police officers since 2016. Yes, 800.
Well, no, we've got 1,300 additional officers funded by City Hall, thanks to council tax and business rates. But
even better. Well, here's the question.
We lost thousands before I invested in the police service. But
here's the question. Boris Johnson had fewer police officers, and yet his record as mayor on crime was better than yours.
Not true. So Boris Johnson, when he became mayor in 2008, there was a Labour government investing record sums in both being tough on crime and tough on the causes. And up until 2013, after the Olympics, he had far more officers than before. There's a link between officer numbers starting to go down in 2013 and serious youth violence going up. But look, I'm clear this is a serious issue. I'm also clear that it's really heartbreaking meeting bereaved families. And that's why it's so important that we are both tough on crime with more policing, and it's really good the government's done a U-turn and it's given us more police officers, but also tough on the causes, investing in young people.
Well, let's go back to the numbers and then to, as it were, an appeal directly to you. So under Boris Johnson, there were 741,000 crimes in his final year of office, and it's now 913,000 in 2019-20, last figures we've got. Jasna Badzak, whose son Sven was killed on a shopping errand earlier this year, says, knife crime has infected every part of London. He, that's you, is mayor in charge of policing. He can't blame the Home Office or Downing Street.
Well, I accept responsibility. I'm the mayor of London. The point I'm making is we've got to work together. The government's got to give us the resources and powers we need, but also we've got to invest in young people as well. And we are making progress in relation to, you want to talk about numbers, in relation to the numbers of people who are victims of crime going down, but it's not good enough because one fatality in London, one victim of knife crime in London is one too many.
Do you need a change in policy?
I think we need more resources. So the good news is this summer we'll have record activity for young people to do in education, culture and sport, but also high-profile policing. We need to make sure, though, we'll get the additional officers we've been promised by the government.
Do you think that Cressida Dick is responsible for rising crime in London?
No, those committing the crimes, an act of violence, are responsible for the violent crime. We've got to invest in policing, but also invest in young people as well.
Now, Cressida Dick has faced very, very serious criticism for the Met's handling of the Sarah Everard vigil, which we all remember. And the Met's recently been accused of, quotes, institutional corruption, quotes, over the case of Daniel Morgan. Do you have faith in Cressida Dick, or should she resign?
No, I've got faith in Cressida Dick. I've got full confidence in Cressida Dick. Both the Home Secretary and I take our responsibilities to scrutinise the police very seriously, and the Commissioner will be providing an explanation into the very serious findings of the Daniel Morgan panel, but also we're making sure that we address the issues that concern Londoners, violence, crime.
Well, here's where we are now, and you've talked about victims. Daniel Morgan's son says he doesn't accept the Met's apology and he doesn't think the culture of the Met can change unless Cressida Dick leaves. Is he wrong?
Well, look, my commiserations to Daniel Morgan's son and the entire family. I think the key thing is to make sure the police, Sadiq is the Commissioner of the Met Police Service, the government, myself, work together to earn back the trust confidence lost by Daniel Morgan's family and others because of the issues that you've mentioned.
Sadiq Khan, thanks very much indeed for coming into us this Sunday morning. Now,